Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.
I have to remember what I sent you.
Okay, that happens. That definitely happens. This one's called Haenyeo Diver. I think I said that correctly. And it's first of all, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. No clouds in the sky. In the background, you can see kind of what's a rocky shore. There's a kind of a lagoonish sort of thing, but it's not very warm because there's a woman walking she's in a full body wetsuit. So the water's probably pretty cold. She looks kind of Japanese. I assume Haenyeo is either Japanese or Korean.
It is Korean. The Haenyeo divers are a class of women that have been around for quite some time, and they are women divers. So on the island of Jeju, it is a South Korean island. These women are the matriarchs of their family for generations. They have been the breadwinners, and they fish. They free dive, basically. So they're going down. They can hold their breath for an incredible amount of time, and they dive, they gather all of the fish, and then they sell it at markets. During the occupation and the wars, a lot of the Haenyeos went actually to the Soviet Union at the time to work and dive, and they are absolutely incredible. And this particular photo was taken in March, so it was pretty cold. But this particular art is kind of dying out. So all of the Haenyeo are of the older generations, and the younger generations aren't adapting this lifestyle because it's very hard. But these women can hold their breaths for minutes, like up to 7 minutes. It's really incredible. And this particular photo that I took, the woman just looked so happy. And I think it was because I was so happy because I had read about these women. I had just finished a book prior to going to Jeju, and when I saw them, it was probably the only time in my life I have actually fangirled on someone, no celebrity, no musicians, but when I saw the Haenyeo, I was just so excited to see them and meet them, and this woman just matched my tone and my excitement so well the moment that I snapped the photo, and it was just incredible to see them.
So are you okay? So just from what you're saying, so are you a photojournalist? How much of your life is to go and visit people to photograph them? Because that's a very specific way of spending your time.
So that used to be my occupation. It is not currently. Since we moved over here, I do not work for a newspaper, but I have in the past. That was my job, to go and visit people, to write about them, to photograph them. So the 4 photos that I sent you have basically just been on our personal travels, but I still have that particular eye. And I write about it for personal documentation for my son, who is 8 at the time. He was 6 years old when we first moved to Korea. That was during COVID. So we had a 2-week quarantine, and he spent his 6th birthday in quarantine. And at the time, he just thought that when everyone turned 6 years old, they moved to Korea. He thought that that's what just the world did. So that used to be my job. We are over here for my husband's job. He is in the same kind of industry. But all of these are our personal travels. But I still have always had that photojournalist eye. If you'll notice, every single one of the photos that I gave you have people in them, because I am just so enamored about the way that people live in different places, different cultures, because there's so much to learn from that. And seeing these women was such an inspiration, because they are probably the toughest, or one of the toughest group of women in the world.
Okay. Well, that's a big claim. That's a huge claim to say.
Yeah. I mean, well, historically speaking, there are other matriarchal societies, obviously, but not in Korea specifically.
Right.
So it's really interesting to see them, at least in my worldview, those that I have, witnessed.
Yeah. so like one of the pillars, I guess, of the podcast, because it's where my interest goes, is, excuse me while a helicopter flies by. One of the pillars is strong women, right? And so you're there, you make this sort of journey to go to find them. I mean, is it very far from your place? And I mean, was that the whole point of why you went out there? Like, what is the background of this particular visit?
So Jeju is a small island off of the peninsula of South Korea. So where we live, it was a flight. It was a pretty easy flight. And then there are a particular area on the island. Jeju is not very big. So I did seek them out that day. I wouldn't say that's the whole reason we went to Jeju. Jeju is just a really, interesting island. It was just travel, exploration. But I made a point of going to see these particular women while I was there. And there's also specific restaurants that solely buy from the Haenyeo divers. So you're getting this fresh catch every
Mm,
day that is, very specific to this cultural phenomenon.
okay. So it's so weird for me to kind of meet people like this through the podcast, because my main, you know, mission or impulse is just to go, okay, well, how do you make sense of the world? And like, who are you? And so, Molly, how how did this happen? Because first of all, being in Savannah, for example, I met a whole bunch of people who, and I mean like a lot of people who had never even left the state, right?
Mhm.
So, what even drew you out of, did you say St. Louis? No, sorry. But anyways, to Savannah and then to Korea, South Korea. I mean, like, good on you. Well done. Like, what is that thing in your brain that between like you and your husband said, well, we're just gonna like the world is our oyster. We're just going to seek opportunities. So like what is that?
So I moved from St. Louis to Hawaii, and that's where I met my husband.
Oh,
He and I moved to Germany. We lived there for 6 years. Then we moved to Savannah, and then we moved to South Korea. And I mean,
listen to you guys.
so I have always really been interested, but like when I was growing up, we didn't travel the world. There wasn't the means for it. And so
Mhm.
I remember I didn't even get on an airplane until I was 15 or 16 years old. And that was when I went to Florida with a friend. The first
Mhm.
time that I was able to go out of the country, I think I was around 19 or 20, and I went by myself. And that was a time, in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you could pay $50 for a standby flight and you would go to the airport and you would wait and you would see if maybe
Oh,
you could get
wow.
to Europe. And so I did a lot of solo travel at that time. And for me personally, like the short answer is I feel most comfortable in my life when I'm slightly uncomfortable. So when there
I know that.
is a piece of a puzzle or something that I have to figure out where there is no room for complacency, then I am inspired and I feel more comfortable. I think
Mm.
a lot of people, they look at our travels, and I, of course, recognize how privileged I am and how it looks from the outside, how lucky I am, but it comes
It's
down
work.
to it's work and it's a choice.
Yep.
So we made this choice. It is a conscious choice to uproot our lives and try something different. So when we made the choice to move to Korea, my we had two job offers, two opportunities. One was to go back to Germany, which I love living in Europe. And a lot of people questioned why we would turn that down. And we actively chose South Korea because we had never lived or explored this part of the world. And while I
Nice.
love traveling, I really think that if you put roots down in a community like 5 years, then you can figure it out. It goes
Hmm.
beyond the surface to something a little bit deeper, and you pick up on those values and ideas. And some of them are arbitrary. Like before I moved to South Korea, I had never used kitchen scissors, and now I will never not use kitchen scissors. That you really do pick up. And I feel like my life, like, why haven't I been doing this the whole time? It makes things so much easier. Why do you have a knife when you can use kitchen scissors? So,
Molly, you're a weirdo. I love it.
So, I mean, there are just these like different things that you pick up, and now that I'm a parent, this is the first time I've lived overseas as a parent, you kind of see how parenting is different and how people are treated. Like there's a very Confucius mindset here in South Korea, and the way that they treat children and the elderly is very different than how the U.S. treats both of those groups of people. So it's I mean, it sounds cheesy to say like I'm a student of the world, but really putting myself in these moments and opportunities really helps me continue to grow as a person, and it keeps my mind open, which I think is very important in a vastly fast-paced changing world.
For sure. Okay, well, we're going to move along to the next photograph, but I just want to say that it's really great in this one photo of the diver. Yeah, and I love the fact that, and I've said this before to other guests, it's like if you put yourself in my or the listener's sort of seat, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where you're taking us. So we're going on a trip with you, and just listening to you talk, I know the next photo has got to be pretty crazy.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.